Here's what happens when KKK members get thrown behind bars in the Deep South, starting with this correctional officer who quickly found out he wasn't running the show anymore. Number 6. Thomas Jordan Driver. Thomas Jordan Driver used to work as a correctional officer in Florida, but on the side, he was a Ku Klux Klan group member of a group called the Traditional American Knights.
These 3 men conspired to kill a black inmate because they believed the inmate, who was HIV infected.
In 2013, while on duty, Driver picked a fight with an inmate named Williams. It all began when Driver kept blowing cigarette smoke in Williams' face, ignoring his complaints. Eventually, Williams lost his temper and fought back, biting Driver during the struggle. That bite changed everything. Driver became obsessed with the idea that he might have caught HIV or hepatitis from the bite. 2 years later, in 2015, Driver, along with 2 other Klan members, David Moran and Charles Newcomb, plotted revenge. They wanted Williams dead. They didn't just talk about it either, they started planning. But what Driver didn't know was that an FBI informant had already infiltrated their Klan group. The informant recorded their conversations where they mapped out the murder. They'd even cheered when shown a fake photo of Williams supposedly lying dead. In reality, no one had been hurt. The FBI staged the scene to catch them in the act. Driver, still wearing his correctional officer uniform, was arrested on prison grounds. Moran was arrested alongside him. Newcomb, who was already in trouble for impersonating a cop, was picked up shortly after.
I tell you, we will not tolerate, nor will we ever remain silent over the violence of hatred embedded in prejudice in this country.
In 2017, Driver pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. His partner, Moran and Newcomb, were found guilty and given 12-year sentences each. Their plan to kill ended before it even began. The bite that started it all led Driver straight from guarding prison cells to living inside one. Number 5. Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof grew up in South Carolina. He had a rough childhood, bouncing between schools, battling behavior problems, and dropping out early. By the time he was an adult, he was unemployed and angry at the world. On June 17, 2014, Roof walked into the Manual African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston. It was a quiet evening Bible study. He sat with the parishioners for a while, pretended to join them. Then he pulled out a gun and opened fire. 9 people were killed, including a state senator who was also the church's pastor. 1 survivor lived to tell what happened.
I went to that church in Charleston, and I did it.
Roof later confessed he attacked the church to start a race war. Investigators found his website packed with racist rants and photos of him posing with white supremacist symbols. He also posted on hate sites under the name Aryan Blood 1488, spreading similar ideas. In December 2016, Roof was convicted on 33 federal charges, including hate crimes. In January 2017, he was sentenced to death. A few months later, he pleaded guilty to state charges and got 9 life sentences without parole.
To have a life sentence without inciting violence in prison, the jurors unanimously agreed that he would be a threat to incite violence if he received a life sentence. He is also now asking for a new legal team to be appointed to file a motion for a retrial. The judge has told him that he thinks that his legal counsel is sufficient, but that if Roof has an explanation for why he needs a new legal team.
Roof didn't show any regret. From jail, he doubled down on his racist views, writing another manifesto. His crime later inspired other mass shooters around the world who named him as an influence. In December 2024, President Biden commuted dozens of federal death sentences, but Roof wasn't spared. Biden said the death penalty should still apply for acts of terrorism and racially motivated mass killings. Today, Roof sits on death row at USP Terre Haute, waiting for the federal government to decide when and how he'll face execution. Number 4. James Ford Seal. James Ford Seal grew up in Mississippi and spent most of his life working jobs like lumber work, crop dusting, and a short stint as a police officer. But underneath that ordinary life, he was a violent member of the Ku Klux Klan. He belonged to one of the most dangerous branches, known for taking things into their own hands.
Reputed Ku Klux Klan leader James Ford Seal, serving 3 life sentences for his role in a 1964
In 1964, Seal and another Klansman, Charles Marcus Edwards, pretended to be federal agents and kidnapped 2 black teenagers, Henry D. and Charles Moore. They dragged them deep into the woods, beat them badly, tied them up, and threw them into the Mississippi River, with heavy weights tied to their bodies. Both young men drowned. At first, Seal and Edwards were arrested, but nothing stuck. Charges were dropped, and the case stayed cold for years. Decades later, Charles Moore's brother, Thomas Moore, refused to let the story be forgotten. He pushed for answers, and with the help of journalists and new investigations, the case was finally reopened. In 2007, Seal was arrested again, this time on federal charges of kidnapping and conspiracy. Edwards made a deal and testified against him. Seal was convicted and sentenced to 3 life sentences. For a moment, it looked like he might go free again, after the conviction was overturned in 2008 over a technicality. But after another review, the courts brought it back.
White supremacist groups like the Ku Klux Klan terrorized people in the Deep South who were calling for racial equality. They burned black homes and churches, even kidnapped and killed. Charles Moore and his friend Henry D. were victims, allegedly beat to near death by James Ford Seal and a friend.
Seal spent the last years of his life behind bars. On August 2011, he died in prison, never getting another chance at freedom. Number 3. Frrazier Glenn Miller. Frrazier Glenn Miller Jr. was a former soldier who turned into a well-known white supremacist leader in America. Born in North Carolina in 1940, he dropped out of high school and joined the Army, serving 2 tours in Vietnam before rising to Master Sergeant in the Special Forces.
He looked disheveled and disoriented. 73-year-old Frrazier Glenn Cross had to be wheeled to his video feed court appearance. He had no friends or family in the courtroom.
I don't have the money.
The judge assigned him a free lawyer and set his bond at $10 million.
After leaving the military in 1979, Miller became deeply involved in racist movements. He started the Carolina Knights of the Ku Klux Klan and later formed the White Patriot Party, a group that pushed for an all-white nation. His time as a leader was filled with violent speeches and secret military-style training. By the mid-1980s, Miller's activities caught up with him. He got arrested for breaking laws against paramilitary training and for weapons charges. In 1987, after threatening letters surfaced, Miller was caught again. He cut a deal by testifying against others and served a few years behind bars. But prison didn't change him. In 2014, and now 73 years old, Miller launched a shooting spree at a Jewish community center and a nearby retirement home in Kansas. He killed 3 people, all of them Christian, before being captured. As police dragged him away, he shouted, "Heil Hitler," without any regret.
Miller went on to serve 3 years in prison on weapons charge and for plotting the murder of Morris Dees, the founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center. He reached a deal with federal prosecutors to testify against other white supremacists in a 1988 sedition trial. This is Frrazier Glenn Miller speaking in 1986 at a meeting of far-right leaders. It's from the documentary Blood in the Face. A warning, this is filled with hateful language.
So I'm going down the street marching, and I got my bullhorn out there, and I yell out, "We thought y'all had some niggers down here. Where are they at?" And we got about 2 more blocks, and I seen where they were at. They were about 8 deep on each side of the street. And we marched right in the middle of them, but we didn't have any trouble. They didn't attack anybody. They just jumped up and down on the street. Have you ever seen monkeys when they get excited, how they jump up and down?
In 2015, Miller was found guilty of capital murder and sentenced to death. He was locked away, waiting for execution. But before Alabama could carry it out, fate took a different turn. On May 3, 2021, Miller died in prison at 80 years old. Natural causes ended his life before the state could. Number 2. Henry Francis Hayes. Henry Hayes grew up deep inside the Ku Klux Klan. His father, Benny Jack Hayes, was a top leader in the group. From a young age, Henry was surrounded by hate. In 1981, after a black man's trial for killing a white officer ended in a mistrial, Hayes wanted revenge. He and another Klansman, James Knowles, decided to kill a random black person. They found 19-year-old Michael Donald walking home alone. They kidnapped him, beat him badly, strangled him with a rope, and then hung his body from a tree in Mobile, Alabama. Hayes was arrested and put on trial in 1983. Even though the jury suggested life in prison, the judge didn't listen. He gave Hayes the death penalty. On the day of his execution in 1997, Hayes sat down with a local NAACP leader, Reverend Bob Smith. In that meeting, he finally confessed. He explained exactly what he'd done and said he was sorry. Later that night, Hayes was led to the electric chair at the Holman prison. The guards strapped him down, placed the metal cap on his head. When the switch was thrown, the current hit his body hard. Within minutes, Henry Hayes was dead. But the story didn't end there. Michael Donald's mother, Belua Mae Donald, took the Klan to court. She won a massive $7 million lawsuit. The ruling crushed the United Klans of America financially and helped them shut down for good. Number 1. Larry Webster. Larry Kevin Webster was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, known for his racist and violent affiliations. In 1993, while facing charges of kidnapping and robbery, he was incarcerated in a Texas jail. Despite his visible KKK tattoos, Webster was placed in a cell with black inmates, which proved to be a mistake.
Webster was placed in a cell with black prisoners due to overcrowding. Upon seeing his Klan tattoos, the inmates recognized him as a Klansman and subjected him to physical assault, including kicks to the face.
Soon after his placement, tensions escalated. Webster was assaulted by the other inmates. They kicked him in the face and injured his elbow so severely that he required emergency medical care. It was a violent and sudden attack that left Webster badly hurt, his racist symbols and tattoos causing immediate conflict. Feeling wronged, Webster filed a lawsuit against Galveston County Jail officials. He claimed that they'd been negligent in placing him in that dangerous situation, given his notorious KKK affiliations. In 2000, a federal jury sided with Webster, awarding him $55,000 in damages. 2 jail officials were held personally responsible for the incident, and their negligence cost them both professionally and financially,
resulting in serious injuries that required emergency room treatment. Webster subsequently filed a lawsuit against Galveston County, arguing that jail officials had negligently placed him in a situation where his safety was compromised due to his known Klan background.
The judgment seemed to embolden Webster, and he never publicly renounced his KKK ties or expressed any remorse for his past actions. Do you believe KKK members this severe are capable of redemption? What do you think about KKK members being rewarded for being put in dangerous situation, even with their views? If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on notifications for more future content just like this.